You know, Panthers in a way avoided disaster, right? They're up 3-0. Edmonton comes back to force this game 7. But it was interesting to watch this game, guys, because to me, it was like seeing Florida become Florida once again. They are so good with the lead after 2 periods. And that third period was just a great example of how great they can be.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. And when you look at this game, it could have gone back and forth. And we were talking about it, Craig, saying, like, listen, this could have gone either way. But the moment that they did get the lead, in particular in that third period, they just got back to their Florida Panther ways. And much to what they were doing in the first few games of the series, they got back to. And that's real difficult to do, right? When you're looking and staring down the barrel of a reverse sweep, and then you find a way to close it out. And what I mean by that is just pushing to the outside, one-on-ones with McDavid, making sure he doesn't get speed underneath the puck. And how about the block shots as well? Pushing so that someone like Bobrovsky can see the puck and find a way to make the big saves, and finding a way to close it out in the end when you McDavid and Draisaitl were continuously on the ice, pushing with sort of the pedal to the metal, trying to get that equalizer.
Florida Panthers were getting far too little from Sam Reinhart and Carter Verhaeghe. Yep. Far too little. They were non-participants for large stretches of games. Yep. And they couldn't have picked a better time to have big-time games. Sam Reinhart scores the Stanley Cup winning goal. Carter Verhaeghe with 2 points, the goal and the assist. But they had not been performing very well. Brandon Montour had a good game. He had not been performing very well. Matthew Tkachuk. You want to win the Stanley Cup, there's no room for passengers. Everybody has to be an active participant. And the reason they lost 3 straight games is they didn't have enough active participants.
Right.
That was not the case here in Game 7. And 2 players that they count on to score and to produce did exactly that.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we're really happy for Sergei, but gosh, you feel bad for Stuart Skinner, because has there ever been a goaltender who's had a wilder roller coaster ride through a postseason than Stuart Skinner? You know, pulled at the beginning of the playoffs for Calvin Pickard, gets back in, looks great. And the real key, 10-0 in games 4 to 7 throughout the postseason, going into this game 7. He was clutch when it really came down to it, and it's 1 goal at the end of the day. You know, other than that, he was great in this hockey game.
I mean, we were talking about it, watching the game, just thought he was dialed in, thought he made some terrific saves. And, yeah, he may want that one back on the Reinhart shot. It was a nice triple drive. It was a nice play. The shot caught him off guard, I think, on that short side. But when you look at the goaltending over the course of the series, but I think it's the bounce back. Finding ways to push through adversity, come back and make a big save. I mean, you're down 3-0 and you're staring 200 feet away from you, and you're staring down Bobrovsky, who is just absolutely on fire, and you come back into the crease and you put up those kind of numbers. You hand it to Stuart Skinner, but certainly I do think that he will want that one back, as it winds up being, you know, the goal that would win the Stanley Cup.
He's in his 2nd year in the National
Unbelievable.
That's wild, isn't it?
He was on the all-rookie team last year.
Yeah.
Grant Fuhr said this about Stuart Skinner last year. He was on their all-rookie team. Grant said, I had a fantastic rookie season. My first playoffs were not very good.
Right.
And he said, Stuart Skinner will learn from this. And he did. You know, there was a lot of criticism of Stuart Skinner earlier in the season, as there was with the team. Keep this in mind. Bobrovsky got pulled in this in a game.
Yes.
He gave up 12 goals in his last 3 games. And 7 goals against for Sergei Bobrovsky in the last 4 games, including all 4 of those games when you're facing elimination. I don't think Stuart Skinner is any type of problem. No. I've never met a goaltender that didn't want a goal back. I don't care if it was a breakaway or wherever it was. They all want him back, Jay. But Stuart Skinner, to me, has clearly demonstrated that he can get into the net and help you win a Stanley Cup. Not win a Stanley Cup, because it takes a lot of mental strength. It takes a lot of confidence here. And I think he's built it. 2nd year in the NHL. I want Stuart Skinner on my team. I'll say that right now. Team Canada, you're looking for a goaltender? I think Stuart Skinner has absolutely shown that he can handle the challenges and the pressures and the big spotlight. Because I don't know if it gets any bigger in the NHL than Edmonton.
Well, and he talked about it last summer, right? The maturity and doing the work on the mental side of the game, and how important that is. And as you mentioned, it's his 2nd year, and to find a way to claw your way back in, but having a confidence, even the way he was talking to the media, right? There's an accountability piece to him, but then being able to go out there and execute on the biggest stage. I think it's incredible, and it asks you the question, or you start to ask the question, what is this guy's ceiling? If he can continually grow from that mental aspect, which is what we know is the difference between good and great.
You know, we talk all the time about Team Canada. I love talking to you about Team Canada. And we talk about the dearth of goaltending that we have in this country right now. So it's promising, right? This is promising, this kind of performance from Stuart Skinner. You know, you hate to jump right into what's next for Edmonton, but this Leon Draisaitl contract situation is looming over the team. But maybe even more than that, they don't have a general manager. As a former general manager, Craig, that's a unique situation for a team that makes it to Game 7 of the Cup final and they don't have a GM heading into the draft.
Well, we don't know that they don't have a GM. I mean, it appears that Ken Holland is going to step away and, you know, move on, a Hall of Famer, certainly, and Kenny's done a lot of great work in this league. But Jeff Jackson now, who's running the hockey operations there, I know Jeff very well. Jeff is methodical, he's organized, and I think that I would expect that there will be people in charge, you know, after Kenny Holland, and I don't think it'll be very long after.
Can we talk about Connor McDavid? Not only, you know, winning the Conn Smythe Trophy, but taking it to Game 7, and you know he hates to lose. I've never seen an athlete who it shows on his face so much how much he hates to lose. What does getting to Game 7 of the Cup final, winning the Conn Smythe in a losing effort, how does it affect his legacy, Cheryl, in your mind?
Well, it's interesting, right? I think that when you look at Connor McDavid, I think everyone would say right now he's the best player in the world without a doubt. You know, he put up 42 points in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He put his team on his back. No, he doesn't have a Stanley Cup, but he will get one because Connor McDavid knows how to play the game like no one else. And he also has really matured into a leader on this team who's willing to do whatever it takes. I mean, he's got the work ethic. He's got the belief. You're looking at a connected team right now that had buy-in, and we were talking about it, Craig, value from top to bottom, which has come from players like McDavid, the leadership group, but also from their coaching staff. So I believe that a Stanley Cup is in his future. But this won't be good enough for Connor McDavid, right? He is that type of guy, that personality that wants it. I can taste it. I go back to the playoffs last year when they said it's cup or bust next year kind of idea. And the look on his face and Draisaitl's face, much like right now, that said, we are not stopping until we get one. And so a difficult day for Connor McDavid and company, no question about it. I said Game 7s are the toughest to win and toughest to lose, but you certainly know with his compete and the skill set that he has that he will be back.
Greatness orbits amongst the planets very differently. And when you think about Connor McDavid, he's in a different universe. There's very few players that have played in the NHL over the course of its history that are in that universe. Very, very few. And what Connor McDavid has shown is that how he plays and how he elevates. And you know, you think about, you know, what he did in this Stanley Cup final. There's only two players that have even done close to what he did, and that's Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux. And even they never had to do what Connor did in bringing his team back from 3-0 down to get to a Game 7. They never had to do that. And Connor McDavid's legacy is still being built. And he's got greatness in the years to come for a long time. You know, I think go back to 1995. Steve Yzerman was in his first Stanley Cup final. They lost in 4 straight. Now, that could have been the case here with the Edmonton Oilers. The next year, they set a record at that time for most points in a regular season. They got beat by the Colorado Avalanche. And it didn't sit well. If I said to you at the beginning of the year, are you ready to pay the price to win? Or do you want to win? You'd say yes. Are you ready to pay the price? You'd say yes. Do you know what the price is? Most people don't know what the price is. Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers have learned what that price is. Just like Gretzky and the Oilers learned in 1983. Gretzky talked about that. And I don't think for any second in my mind that Connor McDavid is not going to intersect with winning the Stanley Cup, just like Yzerman did and all the other greats.
He has everything thrown at him, and he figures it out.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have everything thrown at you, the kitchen sink, and you find a way to adjust because you have the skill set, you have the brain, you have the speed to make the right play at the right time, and that's what he does. And yeah, you got to hand it to a Florida Panthers team right now. Right, you got to say a team that found a way.
And they learned it last year, right?
They learned it last year, but I think, you know, a big thing there is again just learning to make those adjustments. And Connor McDavid, you know, did put his team on his back, but his team responded as well, and that's a massive thing.
I'll share a story. In 1998, we won the President's Trophy in Dallas. We lost Joe Nieuwendyk in the first game of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We went all the way to the conference final. and lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champion, the Detroit Red Wings. So we're in Detroit. We're in the arena. It's over. It's like I call it the flat line. Like there's such a buzz with the team and everything going on, and it's quiet. You hear the light bulbs. That's what you hear. That's the only sound you hear is the light bulbs. And Doug Jarvis, who had won 4 Stanley Cups as a player with the Montreal Canadiens, he spoke first, and I never forgot this. He says, "We have a team here. We have a team that plays for one another. We have a team that is willing to do the things necessary to win a Stanley Cup." And it was at that moment, people ask, when did you know? I don't know if you ever know. And Paul Maurice talked about it, and he talked about Sharon, but when you go through that, and even though you fell short, you learn so much. And the Edmonton Oilers have done exactly that. They're a team, and they know now what they want to do to make sure that they can ultimately win the Stanley Cup. We ended up winning it in 1999 because we did have a team, and the Oilers have exactly that.
And if everyone had the magic recipe, we'd all be multi-millionaires, right?
Yeah.
And we spoke a lot about that team word and the value of knowing that everyone has to find a way to contribute in their own way, and the leadership group spreading that out and knowing that it takes that whole team. And I think that's the maturity and the process it comes with. And I had a sports psychologist once say to me, excellence is abnormal.
It is.
And I remember looking at him going, are you supposed to say that? We're pushing for an Olympic gold medal here, Are you supposed to say that? They said, no, excellence is abnormal. Therefore, you must behave abnormally to be excellent. You can't do what everyone else is doing.
True.
You got to think different.
Think of the way we've been talking about this Edmonton Oilers team for the last few years. It's 2 superstars, and will they ever get the guys they need on the bottom 6, and will they ever get the goal? Well, they've got it, right? They've got it. They've shown it. They took it to 7.